Next time, they would learn respect. They would know their place.
Flight attendant tortures black boys into a coma until brothers call to mom grounds the flight. But what this 7-year airline veteran did to 2 teenagers traveling to secure their future will make you question whether power without accountability has transformed ordinary people into monsters who believe uniforms grant them permission to destroy children. You think stepping on my foot was an accident, boy? Get on your knees right now. Both of you, kneel in this aisle until I say you can stand. You need to learn respect. You need to understand your place. Flight attendant Craig Whitmore's voice carries through the cabin of Apex Airlines Flight 2847 from Los Angeles to New York, his 47 years of white privilege and 7 years of unchecked authority converging in this moment where he orders 14-year-old Trevor and 12-year-old Miles Richardson to kneel like criminals because Miles accidentally bumped his foot reaching for the restroom. The words hit the brothers like physical assault. Trevor's hands start shaking as he processes what's being demanded. Miles's eyes fill with tears, understanding they're being punished not for what they did but for who they are. 2 black teenagers in business casual clothing carrying portfolios about a $250,000 brand deal they earned through talent and work, now being forced to their knees at 30,000 feet while passengers watch and record but don't defend. Here's what people refuse to accept about racism in 2026. It's not museum exhibit or history lesson, it's flight attendants drunk on authority ordering children to kneel, it's systems that protect abusers until bodies break, it's discrimination that's evolved beyond slurs into psychological torture performed with confidence that comes from never facing consequences. And in some ways that makes it more dangerous than the overt hatred of previous generations because now it hides behind safety protocols and crew authority and we're just maintaining order, cruelty disguised as discipline, power weaponized against the powerless. Trevor and Miles aren't surprised by Craig's hatred in the way their parents might hope. They're shocked, yes, because you're never fully prepared for an adult to abuse authority this blatantly, to humiliate you this publicly, to treat accidental contact like assault while committing actual assault through forced degradation. But surprised? No, this is their 4th time flying this year and the 2nd time crew has treated them with suspicion. The teacher who questioned whether their cooking show was really theirs, the store security who followed them despite their parents' money, each incident teaching them that excellence doesn't protect black children from people who've decided excellence in black skin must be explained away or punished. So my brother said he was sorry. Trevor tries to keep his voice steady despite the fear and rage building. It was an accident. The aisle is narrow. He didn't mean to step on you. We're just trying to get to New York for a business meeting. Business meeting? Craig's laugh is ugly and mocking. Kids like you don't have business meetings, you have excuses and attitudes. Now get on those knees before I have you removed from this aircraft in restraints. I don't care who you think you are or where you think you're going. The threat hangs heavy. Removal means missing tomorrow's Heritage Foods meeting, means losing the $250,000 deal they worked years to earn, means disappointing their grandmother whose recipes built their platform, means their parents' prayers that nothing would interfere answered with the cruelest possible interference. Other passengers in rows around them shift uncomfortably, phones come out to document not to defend, witnesses accumulating who will claim they didn't know what to do when the truth is they knew exactly what to do and chose not to do it. Chose viral content over intervention, chose their comfort over 2 children's dignity. If you believe no child should be forced to kneel in an airplane aisle because of an accident, keep watching. If you think airline crew discrimination is rare or exaggerated, you need to see what happens when this flight attendant's power goes completely unchecked. And if you've ever watched authority figures abuse children while crowds stay silent, drop a comment below and tell us your story. We're reading every single one. Also tell us where you're watching from and what time it is right now. This story doesn't end the way you think. Hit that like button if you stand against abuse of power and subscribe to this channel because we're exposing incidents that airlines don't want you to see. Miles looks at his brother with question in his wet eyes, asking without words if they really have to do this, if adults really can force them to kneel, if there's any way out of this nightmare that doesn't cost them everything they've worked for. Trevor's jaw tightens with decision he shouldn't have to make, slowly moves to kneel because protecting his little brother and getting to New York matters more than pride, because sometimes survival means submission even when submission feels like death, because he's 14 years old and learning that being right doesn't protect you when someone with power decides you're wrong. But as Miles starts to kneel beside his brother, as Craig Whitmore stands over them with satisfaction that suggests this isn't about the stepped-on foot but about power and control and teaching these particular children this particular lesson, nobody in that cabin knows that in 20 minutes Miles Richardson will be unconscious, that Trevor will be screaming for help, that their mother who works as senior VP for this exact airline will use every ounce of authority she has to ground this flight. That Craig Whitmore's cruelty is about to cost him 15 years in federal prison. But to understand how two black teenagers ended up kneeling in an airplane aisle being tortured by a flight attendant whose cruelty would put one of them in a coma, you need to know who Trevor and Miles Richardson really are, and more importantly, you need to understand why this trip to New York represented everything their family sacrificed to build, everything their grandmother's legacy promised, everything racism tries to steal from black children who dare to succeed. Trevor Richardson is 14 years old, 9th grade at Crenshaw High School in Los Angeles, honor student who balances academics with running a viral cooking channel that's accumulated 2 million subscribers, who learned to cook at his grandmother's knee and turned those lessons into a platform that celebrates black culinary traditions, who's responsible and mature and carries himself with confidence that comes from knowing he's good at something that matters. He's polite beyond measure, raised by parents who taught him that excellence is armor and kindness is strength, who understands that as a black teenager he's held to standards white kids never face, who's never been in trouble, never given teachers or authority figures reason to doubt him, who represents his family and his culture with grace that shouldn't be required but is. Miles Richardson is 12 years old, 7th grade at the same school, the creative one with natural charisma that lights up every video, who tastes dishes and describes flavors with vocabulary that makes viewers laugh and learn simultaneously, who idolizes his older brother and works hard to match Trevor's excellence, who's sweet and funny and still believes that being good means being safe, a belief this flight is about to destroy. He's the one who insisted they name their channel Cooking with Culture, who writes the scripts that balance education with entertainment, who dreams of culinary school and then his own restaurant chain that honors their grandmother's recipes, who sees food as connection not just consumption, who at 12 years old already understands legacy matters. Their grandmother Loretta Richardson, who passed 2 years ago, was a woman who cooked with love and precision, who taught her grandsons that every dish tells a story, that recipes carry history, that food is how black families preserve culture across generations that tried to erase it, who made her kitchen a classroom where Trevor and Miles learned measurements and techniques and the deeper truth that excellence in anything requires practice and patience and pride in your craft. Her death devastated them but also gave them purpose, turning grief into mission, preserving her recipes on camera, sharing her wisdom with millions, building a brand that honors her memory while securing their futures. The Heritage Foods deal they're flying to finalize is life-changing, $250,000 annually for 3 years to be youth brand ambassadors representing traditional American family recipes with focus on diverse culinary traditions, plus college scholarships and national platform, opportunity they earned through talent and consistency and the 2 million people who watch them cook every week. This meeting tomorrow at Heritage Foods headquarters in Manhattan will finalize contracts, shoot promotional materials, launch them into a future their grandmother dreamed for them, make real the promise that hard work and authenticity matter, that black excellence gets recognized and rewarded, that her legacy lives through them. Their parents Diana Richardson, Senior Vice President of Human Resources for Apex Airlines, and Anthony Richardson, Senior Policy Analyst at the Department of Justice specializing in civil rights enforcement, represent the kind of black professional success that's supposed to protect their children, that's supposed to mean their sons travel safely, that's supposed to insulate them from the discrimination their parents faced growing up. They prayed together that morning as a family, standing in their Los Angeles kitchen, asking God to protect Trevor and Miles, to let nothing interfere with this opportunity, to bring their sons home safely after the meeting, prayers that feel prophetic in retrospect, warnings their hearts sensed but their minds dismissed. That morning Trevor and Miles woke early, dressed in the business casual clothes their mother bought specifically for this trip, packed their portfolios with presentation materials and contracts to review, double-checked they had everything, the excitement of teenage entrepreneurs about to close the deal that changes everything, normal ambition that should lead to normal success, not to kneeling in airplane aisles while authority tortures them. The Uber ride to LAX was filled with their usual banter, Miles practicing his pitch points, Trevor reminding him to make eye contact, both of them nervous and excited, talking about how Grandma Loretta would be proud, how this deal honors her, how they're carrying her recipes to audiences she never imagined, gratitude mixed with responsibility, legacy as motivation. Check-in at LAX went smoothly, the Apex Airlines agent professional and efficient, commenting on how mature they seemed for traveling alone, wishing them luck with their business meeting, human kindness that felt normal because it was normal, because most people treat well-dressed polite teenagers with basic respect, because Craig Whitmore's hatred is exception not rule even though it shouldn't exist at all. Security was routine, TSA agents waving them through pre-check their mother arranged using her employee benefits, the boys removing laptops and walking through scanners without incident, Miles joking about how his belt buckle always sets off alarms, Trevor laughing, brothers being brothers, normalcy that's about to be shattered. The gate area was typical Sunday morning travel, business people absorbed in phones and laptops, families wrangling kids and luggage, college students with headphones, the usual mix of humanity heading somewhere, Trevor and Miles finding seats and reviewing their presentation one more time, professional focus that belies their ages. Boarding began and they walked down the jetway with carry-ons and portfolios, found seats 14C and 14D in premium economy. Their mother upgraded them to using Miles, settled in comfortably, the plane newer with clean seats and functioning entertainment systems, everything suggesting this would be routine flight, unremarkable journey, just two boys heading to New York to build their futures. Other flight attendants were lovely during boarding, a young woman named Sarah helping them stow their bags, commenting on their professional appearance, asking if they were heading somewhere exciting, Trevor explaining about the Heritage Foods meeting, Sarah congratulating them genuinely, human interaction that reinforces their belief that excellence matters, that being good means being treated well. Then Craig Whitmore appears. Craig Whitmore walks down the aisle doing his pre-flight cabin check, 47 years old with the particular swagger of someone who's worn a uniform long enough to believe it grants him authority over people, not just procedures, his eyes scanning passengers with practiced efficiency until they land on seats 14C and 14D, where two well-dressed black teenagers sit with expensive-looking portfolios, leather bags, business documents spread on their tray tables, and his entire demeanor shifts. He stops, stares at them for a long moment, his face cycling through expressions that Trevor recognizes immediately as suspicion, not curiosity, doubt, not interest, the look that asks how did you get here, not where are you going, prejudice performing its familiar routine. Excuse me, Craig's voice carries that edge of authority mixed with challenge. Can I see your boarding passes? I need to verify you're in the correct seats. Trevor pulls out his phone, shows the mobile boarding pass, seat 14C clearly displayed, Miles does the same for 14D, both boys polite and compliant, used to having to prove they belong in spaces white people occupy without question. Premium economy, Craig says it like an accusation, not an observation. How did you two afford premium economy? Did your parents buy these tickets, or did you, he pauses with meaning, use miles that don't belong to you? Our mother works for this airline. Trevor keeps his voice respectful despite the insult. She's Senior Vice President of Human Resources. She upgraded us using her employee benefits. Everything is legitimate. Senior Vice President, Craig's skepticism is naked now. Your mother is an SVP for Apex Airlines. Is that what you're telling me, and you expect me to believe that? You can verify it if you want, Miles offers helpfully. Her name is Diana Richardson. You can look her up in the employee directory. I don't need to look up anything, Craig snaps. I need you two to understand that premium economy is for business travelers and adults who can afford it, not kids playing dress-up pretending to have important meetings. We're not pretending, sir, Trevor tries to explain. We have a meeting tomorrow in New York with Heritage Foods. We're finalizing a brand ambassadorship deal. These portfolios have our contracts and presentation materials. Brand ambassadorship, Craig's laugh is cruel and dismissive. Let me guess, you're influencers or YouTubers or whatever kids call themselves these days. That's not a real business meeting, that's playing on the internet. We have 2 million subscribers, Miles says with pride that's about to be weaponized against him. We teach cooking, we share our grandmother's recipes. Heritage Foods is paying us $250,000 a year. $250,000, Craig repeats slowly, his contempt thickening. Kids these days think making videos is work, think subscribers equal success. Let me tell you something, real business happens in boardrooms by people who earn their positions through actual labor, not viral videos and participation trophies. The dismissal stings more than the boys expected, their accomplishment reduced to child's play, their hard work characterized as luck, their grandmother's legacy trivialized as internet nonsense, racism dressed up as generational wisdom, contempt masquerading as tough love. Just stay in your seats and don't cause any problems, Craig says, moving past them. And keep your materials organized. This isn't your bedroom. This is a premium cabin with standards to maintain. He walks away muttering loud enough for them to hear. Kids these days, no respect, no understanding of how the real world works. Probably affirmative action got them wherever they think they're going. Commentary designed to wound, to diminish, to remind them that in his eyes they don't belong regardless of tickets or talent or truth. Trevor and Miles exchange looks, the younger brother's eyes asking if they should say something, report him, tell someone, the older brother shaking his head slightly, choosing to let it go, to not make waves, to get to New York without incident, respectability politics playing out at 30,000 feet, black excellence trying to avoid confrontation by being beyond reproach. That was messed up, Miles whispers. Why did he talk to us like that? We didn't do anything wrong, we showed him our tickets. Some people see what they want to see, Trevor says with wisdom beyond 14 years. He saw 2 black kids in premium economy and decided we didn't belong. Nothing we say will change his mind, so let's just ignore him and focus on tomorrow. But you heard what he said about Grandma's recipes? Miles's hurt is visible. He called everything we built playing on the internet. He doesn't even know how hard we work. He doesn't want to know. Trevor puts protective hand on his brother's shoulder. People like him don't care about truth when prejudice is more comfortable. We know what we built. We know what tomorrow means. That's what matters. The plane pushes back from the gate. Safety demonstration begins. Craig Whitmore performs his duties with mechanical efficiency, pointing at exits and oxygen masks, his earlier hostility temporarily masked by procedure, but his eyes keep returning to row 14, watching the boys like they're problems waiting to happen, threats requiring monitoring, suspicious characters in a narrative he's already written. Trevor tries to focus on the presentation materials, reviewing talking points for tomorrow's meeting, but Craig's words keep intruding, the casual dismissal of their work, the mockery of their success, the suggestion that their opportunity is somehow fraudulent, microaggressions that feel like macro attacks, death by 1,000 cuts dressed up as conversation. Miles pulls out his phone before takeoff, texts their mother, flight attendant was rude to us, questioned our tickets, said mean things about our channel, the message sent just before airplane mode is required, too late for Diana to respond, to intervene, to use her authority to protect her sons from the employee whose cruelty is just beginning. The plane climbs to cruising altitude, seatbelt sign turns off, passengers settle into their flights, some sleeping, others reading, the usual mid-morning travel routine, Trevor and Miles trying to reclaim their earlier excitement, talking quietly about tomorrow's meeting, about the commercial shoots they'll do, about making Grandma Loretta proud, normal teenage ambition that shouldn't require defending but does. Craig passes their row multiple times, each time his eyes lingering, his body language radiating disapproval, surveillance dressed as service, his presence a constant reminder that he's watching, judging, waiting for them to make mistake that justifies the prejudice he's already decided they deserve, authority looking for excuse to punish, power searching for victim. An hour into the flight, Miles needs to use the restroom, unbuckles his seatbelt, stands carefully in the narrow aisle, 14 inches of space between seats, tries to move past Craig who's standing nearby with beverage cart, accidentally steps on Craig's foot with the lightest pressure, the kind of incidental contact that happens 1,000 times daily on crowded aircraft. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Miles gasps immediately, his politeness automatic. The aisle is so narrow, I didn't mean to step on you, are you okay? But Craig's face transforms. The excuse he's been waiting for finally arriving, minor accident becoming major incident, the match that lights fuse he's been building for an hour. You did that on purpose. Craig's voice explodes with rage so disproportionate that nearby passengers jump in their seats. You deliberately assaulted me, you stepped on my foot with full force, that's assault on a flight crew member, That's a federal offense. No, sir, I didn't, Miles stammers, his 12-year-old face showing genuine confusion and fear. It was an accident. The aisle is narrow. I was trying to get to the bathroom. I said I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't cut it. Craig moves closer, using his adult size to intimidate a child. You think you can just assault crew members and apologize? You think that's how this works? I could have you arrested when we land. I could have you banned from flying. Trevor stands up quickly, positioning himself between Craig and Miles, protective instinct overriding caution. Sir, my brother apologized. It was clearly an accident. Everyone bumps into people in airplane aisles. This isn't assault. Sit down. Craig's finger jabs toward Trevor's chest without quite touching. Don't make the situation worse by getting involved. Your brother committed a federal offense and there are consequences for that. He didn't commit anything. Trevor's voice stays calm despite anger building. He accidentally stepped on your foot. You're blowing this completely out of proportion. We just want to use the restroom and get back to our seats. Oh, you want to use the restroom? Craig's smile is ugly. Well, first you're going to learn what happens when you assault crew members. Both of you, right now, get on your knees in this aisle. The demand lands like physical blow, passengers in nearby rows going silent, the cabin filling with that particular tension that comes when everyone knows something very wrong is happening but nobody knows how to stop it. What? Miles's voice is small and scared. You want us to kneel, like on the floor? Why would we do that? Because I'm telling you to. Craig's voice carries throughout the cabin now. Because you need to learn respect. Because you need to understand that actions have consequences. Now get down on your knees or I'll have you forcibly removed from this aircraft. Sir, we didn't do anything wrong. Trevor tries one more time. My brother accidentally stepped on you. That's not a crime. You can't make us kneel like criminals. I can and I am. Craig pulls out his radio. Captain, this is Whitmore. I have 2 disruptive passengers in row 14 refusing crew instructions, requesting authorization to use appropriate disciplinary measures. The captain's voice crackles back confused. What kind of disciplinary measures, Craig? What's the situation? Passengers who assaulted me and are now refusing to comply. Craig lies smoothly. Standard protocol for aggressive passengers. Need your authorization to proceed. Use your judgment, the captain says, clearly not understanding what's really happening. But keep it proportional, we're 90 minutes from New York. Miles looks at Trevor with tears starting, the younger brother understanding they're trapped, that adult authority is being weaponized against them, that their mother's prayers for protection aren't being answered. Trevor, we should call Mom, Miles whispers urgently. This isn't right, he's being crazy, Mom can fix this. We are no longer kids, Trevor says, his jaw set with determination born from pride and fear mixed. We can take care of the situation. We don't need to run to Mom every time something goes wrong. We're almost adults. We can handle this. The decision will haunt Trevor for the rest of his life, choosing autonomy over safety, choosing to protect his parents from worry over protecting his brother from danger, choosing to believe that compliance might end this when resistance might have saved them, 14-year-old trying to be man when he should have been allowed to be child. Now, Craig's voice is steel. On your knees, both of you in this aisle, or I will physically put you there and add resisting crew instructions to your charges. Trevor looks at the passengers around them, silently begging for someone to intervene, to tell Craig he's wrong, to use their adult voices to protect children being abused, but phones come out instead of voices, recording starts instead of rescue, witnesses accumulating who will document but not defend. Fine, Trevor says quietly. We'll kneel. Just please don't hurt my brother. We'll do whatever you want. Smart choice, Craig says with satisfaction that reveals this was always about power, not safety. Now get down there and stay down until I tell you you can stand, and if either of you moves without permission you'll spend the rest of this flight in restraints. Trevor and Miles lower themselves to their knees on the airplane floor, the carpet dirty and worn, the position humiliating and painful. 2 boys who woke up that morning as young entrepreneurs now kneeling like prisoners, their business portfolios forgotten on their seats, their grandmother's legacy reduced to this moment of degradation. Miles starts crying silently, tears streaming down his face, 12 years old and learning that excellence doesn't protect you, that success doesn't shield you, that being right doesn't matter when authority decides you're wrong, childhood innocence dying on an airplane floor while strangers film. Trevor reaches over, takes his brother's hand, squeezes it gently, 14-year-old trying to provide comfort he doesn't feel, trying to be strong when he wants to cry too, trying to believe this will end soon when it's only beginning, protective older brother making choices he can't undo, refusing to call their mother when calling her might save them. If you've ever watched children be forced to kneel and humiliate themselves because an adult abused power without consequence, if you've ever seen bystanders record suffering instead of stopping it, this moment should break your heart and make you question what kind of society produces Craig Whitmores and protects them until children pay the price. Subscribe if you believe no child should have to choose between dignity and safety. Like this video if you think witnesses have responsibility to act, not just film, because what happens in the next 20 minutes will show you that sometimes pride costs more than we can afford to pay, and sometimes calling for help is the bravest thing you can do. Craig stands over them, arms crossed, satisfaction visible on his face, surveying his handiwork, two black boys on their knees being taught their place, his version of discipline that's really just torture, his exercise of authority that's really just racism, his professional judgment that's really just cruelty finding outlet. How long do we have to stay like this? Miles asks through tears. My knees hurt. This carpet is dirty. Please, can we just sit down? You'll stay there until I decide you've learned your lesson, Craig says coldly. Until you understand that assaulting crew members has consequences, until you learn respect. The words hang heavy, knowing your place disguised as learning respect, racial hierarchy enforced through forced submission, power demonstrating itself through pain, 35 minutes of torture about to begin while passengers watch and document but don't defend, while Trevor refuses to call their mother, while Miles kneels and cries, while their futures hang in balance neither boy fully understands. 20 minutes into kneeling and Miles's legs have gone numb, the circulation cut off from sustained pressure on hard floor, his knees screaming with pain that radiates up his thighs, his back aching from trying to maintain position, 12 years old and learning what torture feels like, what it means when adults use power to inflict suffering, what happens when cruelty wears uniform and calls itself discipline. Trevor, please, Miles whispers to his brother. My legs really hurt. I don't think I can stay like this much longer. Can we please call Mom now? This has gone too far. We can handle it, Trevor whispers back, though his own knees burn and his pride is being ground to dust with every passing minute. If we call Mom, it'll make everything worse. We'll look like we can't take care of ourselves. We need to tough this out. He has to let us up soon. But Craig shows no signs of mercy. Instead, he seems energized by their suffering, making repeated passes through the aisle with the beverage cart, each time getting closer to where they kneel, his movements deliberate and menacing, power enjoying its ability to cause pain. On one pass, the cartwheel rolls within inches of Trevor's hand. On the next pass, Craig deliberately kicks Trevor's fingers with his shoe, not hard enough to break anything but hard enough to hurt, hard enough to send message that their bodies are his to violate, that kneeling is just the beginning. Ow, Trevor gasps, pulling his hand back. You kicked me. That was on purpose. Your hand was in the way, Craig says with false innocence. Maybe if you maintained proper position you wouldn't get hurt. This is what happens when you don't follow instructions correctly. A woman in row 13, white lady in her 60s, finally speaks up. Excuse me, but this seems excessive. They're children. They've been kneeling for quite a while now. Surely they've learned whatever lesson you're trying to teach? Ma'am, I appreciate your concern, but this is crew business. Craig's voice goes hard. These passengers assaulted me and refused initial instructions. They're receiving appropriate consequences. I suggest you mind your own affairs. They're boys, she persists. One of them is crying, the other looks like he's in pain. This isn't appropriate discipline. This is abuse. If you continue interfering, I'll have to ask the captain to deal with you as well, Craig threatens. Federal regulations give crew members authority to maintain cabin safety. Questioning my judgment undermines that authority. Now please return to your seat. The woman looks like she wants to say more, but fear of being labeled disruptive, fear of being kicked off the flight, fear of consequences for defending children wins over moral courage, another adult choosing silence, another witness failing to act. Craig returns to the beverage cart, deliberately spills water near where the boys kneel, the liquid pooling on carpet around Miles's knees, soaking into his dress pants, cold and humiliating, adding physical discomfort to emotional trauma. Looks like you're making a mess, Craig observes. Can't even kneel properly without causing problems. This is exactly why kids like you need to learn discipline. Miles is sobbing openly now, his body shaking with exhaustion and pain and fear, his nose running, his face wet with tears, all pretense of composure abandoned, 12-year-old breaking under sustained cruelty that no child should endure. I want my mom, Miles cries. Please, I just want my mom. I want to go home. I don't care about New York anymore. I just want my mom. Your mom isn't here, Craig says with cruel satisfaction. It's just you and me and the lesson I'm teaching you. So unless you want to stay on those knees until we land, you better stop crying and show some backbone. Trevor feels his resolve cracking, watches his little brother disintegrate, realizes this isn't about being tough or independent anymore. This is about survival. This is about getting help before something worse happens. This is about swallowing pride and calling their mother regardless of how it looks. Miles, I think you're right, Trevor says quietly. I think we need to call Mom. I was wrong to wait. This isn't something we can handle alone. But before Trevor can reach for his phone, Craig notices their whispered conversation, moves closer, looms over them with body language that radiates threat. What are you two whispering about? Craig demands. Are you plotting something? Are you planning to make more trouble? Because I can add conspiracy to your charges. We're not plotting anything, Trevor says. We're just talking to each other. We're allowed to talk. You're allowed to do what I permit you to do, Craig corrects. And right now I'm not permitting conversation. I'm not permitting movement. I'm requiring silence and stillness until I determine you've been sufficiently disciplined. This is insane. Trevor's voice rises despite his fear. You're torturing us over an accident. You're abusing your authority. People are recording this. You're going to get in trouble. People record lots of things. Craig looks around at the passengers with phones out. But who do you think they'll believe? Two troublemaking kids with attitude problems or a 7-year veteran flight attendant maintaining cabin safety? I've got the uniform and the authority. You've got nothing. The truth of his words sinks in, the realization that uniform does equal credibility in most people's minds, that authority figures get benefit of doubt even when they're clearly wrong, that the system protects people like Craig while abandoning people like Trevor and Miles, injustice baked into structures that claim to serve everyone equally. A businessman in row 15 stands up, black man in his 40s wearing expensive suit, walks toward the front of the plane, his face showing he's had enough, that his conscience won't allow more silence. This needs to stop, the man says firmly to Craig. I'm an attorney. I know civil rights law. What you're doing to these children is illegal. It's assault. It's child abuse. I'm asking you to let them up immediately. Sir, return to your seat. Craig's voice goes dangerous. You're out of your seat during beverage service. You're interfering with crew operations. Sit down now or face consequences. I'll sit down when those boys are allowed to sit down. The attorney holds his ground. You've had them kneeling for 20+ minutes. That's not discipline, that's torture. I'm a witness and I'm telling you this stops now. For a moment it seems like the attorney's intervention might work, might shame Craig into backing down, might rescue Trevor and Miles from their ordeal, hope flickering in the confined space. Then Craig pulls out his radio again, his face showing he's done with objections. Captain, I have multiple disruptive passengers now. The situation is escalating. I need backup, requesting we land at nearest airport and have law enforcement remove these people. The entire plan shifts, Craig's authority being challenged triggering his nuclear option, his pride refusing to admit wrong even when wrong is obvious, his racism digging in deeper when confronted, the situation spiraling toward violence nobody wants but everyone can feel coming. The captain's voice crackles back over Craig's radio, confusion evident even through static. Craig, what exactly is happening back there? I'm getting conflicting reports. I need clear assessment before we discuss diverting. Captain, I have 2 juveniles who assaulted me and are now being defended by adult passengers who are refusing crew instructions. Craig lies with practiced ease. The cabin situation is becoming hostile. I'm concerned about safety. I recommend emergency landing and law enforcement intervention. Stand by, the captain says, clearly trying to process this information, trying to determine if his flight attendant is managing real crisis or creating imaginary one. Institutional trust in uniformed authority warring with doubt that situation is as described. Craig turns back to Trevor and Miles with expression that shows he's won, that the captain's hesitation equals endorsement, that his version of events will be believed over theirs because he has badge and they have nothing. You two just made everything worse, Craig hisses at them. Now instead of getting to New York you'll be explaining yourselves to FBI agents? Congratulations on destroying whatever little futures you thought you had. The cruelty in those words, the deliberate targeting of their dreams, the weaponizing of their heritage foods meeting against them, racism that doesn't just attack bodies but attacks hope, that tries to kill futures before they can be lived. Trevor, we have to call Mom now, Miles says urgently, his voice hoarse from crying. This is really bad. We need help. Please, Trevor, I'm scared. Okay. Trevor finally concedes, reaches into his pocket for his phone, hands shaking as he unlocks it, pride finally surrendering to necessity, 14-year-old admitting he can't protect his brother alone, that some situations require adult intervention, that calling for help isn't weakness but wisdom. What do you think you're doing? Craig sees the phone, moves fast, tries to snatch it from Trevor's hand. You're not calling anyone. You're not making this situation worse. I'm calling my mother. Trevor pulls the phone away, holds it against his chest. You can't stop me from calling my parent. That's my right. You don't have rights on this aircraft. Craig's face goes red with rage. I decide what you can and cannot do. Give me that phone now or I'll take it by force. The black attorney from row 15 steps between them again, his body blocking Craig's access to Trevor. The young man has every legal right to contact his parent. You touch him or that phone and I'm adding assault to the list of charges I'm documenting. Move. Craig shoves the attorney hard, the man stumbling back into a seat, passengers gasping at the violence, at how quickly flight attendant authority has transformed into physical aggression, at how thoroughly Craig has abandoned any pretense of professionalism. Trevor dials while Craig is distracted, his mother's number burned into memory, the phone ringing once, twice, 3 times, each ring feeling like eternity. Please answer, Mom. Please, please answer. Diana Richardson is in a meeting at Apex Airlines headquarters when her phone buzzes. Normally she'd ignore it, but something makes her glance at the screen, sees Trevor's name, sees he's calling from the flight she herself arranged, maternal instinct screaming that something is wrong. Trevor, what's wrong? She answers immediately, already standing, already moving toward her office door, already knowing in her bones that her prayers weren't enough, that something interfered after all. Mom? Trevor's voice breaks completely, 14 years of trying to be strong collapsing. Mom, the flight attendant made us kneel in the aisle, he kicked me, he pushed Miles, and now, his voice dissolves into sobs he can't control. Diana's blood goes ice cold, her executive mind processing implications while her mother heart shatters. Where are you right now, baby? Are you safe? Is Miles okay? We're still kneeling, Trevor manages. We've been on our knees for like 30 minutes. Miles is crying. People are recording but nobody's helping. The flight attendant is crazy, Mom. He's saying we assaulted him but Miles just accidentally stepped on his foot, and now he's trying to get us arrested. Put Miles on, Diana commands, needing to hear both her sons, needing to assess damage through their voices. Trevor holds the phone toward his brother. Miles, talk to Mom, she's on the phone. But Miles doesn't respond, doesn't reach for the phone, doesn't acknowledge his brother at all, his body swaying slightly on his knees, his eyes unfocused, something fundamentally wrong with how still he's gone. Miles, Trevor's voice rises with panic. Miles, answer me, are you okay? Give me that phone. Craig lunges for Trevor again, realizes the boy is talking to someone in authority, understands his control is slipping, desperation making him reckless. The attorney blocks him again, but Craig is beyond restraint now, shoves past, grabs for the phone, Trevor twisting away, both of them struggling while Miles kneels motionless and passengers watch frozen. In the chaos of the struggle, Craig's hand connects with Miles's shoulder. The push isn't that hard, but Miles is already unstable from exhaustion and pain. His body doesn't resist or catch itself properly. He topples sideways like a felled tree, his head striking the armrest of seat 14D with sickening crack that makes nearby passengers cry out. Miles, Trevor screams, drops the phone, scrambles to his brother who lies crumpled on the floor. Miles, wake up. Miles, please wake up. But Miles doesn't wake up, doesn't move, doesn't respond, his 12-year-old body frighteningly still, a thin line of blood trickling from his temple where it hit the armrest, his breathing shallow and rapid, his face pale, shock and concussion shutting down his young body's ability to cope. Trevor grabs the phone from where it fell, brings it back to his ear, his voice pure terror. Mom, Miles won't wake up. Craig pushed him and he fell and hit his head and now he won't wake up. Mom, please help us. Please do something. Diana hears her baby's voice, hears the panic, hears other passengers screaming in the background, hears her unconscious 12-year-old in the background, hears everything she prayed wouldn't happen happening anyway, mother's worst nightmare manifesting at 30,000 feet. What flight are you on? Diana's voice goes from mother to executive in an instant, training and authority engaging even as her heart shatters. What's the flight number, Trevor? I need you to focus and tell me the flight number. Apex 2847. Trevor manages through sobs. Los Angeles to New York, we're somewhere over middle America. I don't know exactly where. Stay on the line, baby, Diana says, already on her office phone with the other hand, already dialing the emergency operations center. Do not hang up, keep this call connected, Mommy's going to fix this. She connects to operations, her voice carrying weight of senior vice president who's about to exercise authority she's never used before, about to make demands that will be met because she knows exactly which levers to pull, because her son is unconscious and her other son is terrified and her maternal fury combined with corporate power is about to ground an aircraft. This is SVP Richardson. Patch me through to the cockpit of Flight 2847 immediately. This is an emergency involving my children and a rogue flight attendant. Do it now. The operations director hesitates for half a second, then hears the tone in Diana's voice, understands this isn't request but command, connects the call while simultaneously alerting crisis management team. Captain Rodriguez of Flight 2847. The pilot's voice comes through, professional and calm, unaware his cabin has descended into chaos. Captain, this is Diana Richardson, Senior Vice President of Human Resources. My 12-year-old son is unconscious in your cabin after being assaulted by Flight Attendant Craig Whitmore. I need you to declare medical emergency and land this aircraft immediately. Ma'am, I need to verify. The captain starts, his training requiring confirmation before emergency procedures. Captain, Diana's voice goes steel. You will verify after you start descending. My child is unconscious. There are multiple witnesses. I am using my executive authority to order you to find the nearest suitable airport and land this plane right now. I will take full responsibility. Just get my sons on the ground. Captain Rodriguez processes Diana's words for approximately 3 seconds, his pilot training warring with his human instinct, protocol demanding verification but a mother's desperation and a senior VP's authority combining into command he can't ignore, decision crystallizing in the way only crisis forces decisions to crystallize. Flight attendants, return to your stations. The captain's voice comes over the intercom with urgency that makes every passenger's stomach drop. We are declaring a medical emergency and diverting to Chicago O'Hare. Secure the cabin immediately. This is not a drill. The plane banks left, the change in trajectory physically felt, the engines throttling differently, descent beginning that tells everyone something serious is happening, that New York is no longer the destination, that emergency is real, not theoretical. Craig stands frozen, his face showing he's finally understanding that consequences are arriving, that pushing a child whose head struck an armrest has transformed his authority trip into criminal assault, that the unconscious 12-year-old bleeding on the floor is evidence that can't be talked away or explained as discipline. You need to step away from those boys, the black attorney says firmly, positioning himself between Craig and the brothers. Don't touch them again, don't speak to them, you've done enough damage, just step back and wait for law enforcement. Craig backs away, his bravado evaporating, his hands shaking as reality penetrates, 7 years of getting away with discrimination and microaggressions and buried complaints suddenly ending because he pushed too far, because this time the victim had a mother with power, because this time witnesses recorded everything, because this time unconscious child proves malice not mistake. Trevor cradles Miles's head in his lap, his hand pressing gently where blood seeps from the temple wound, his other hand still clutching the phone where their mother's voice provides lifeline. Mom, he's still not waking up, his breathing sounds weird, there's blood, I don't know what to do. You're doing everything right, baby. Diana's voice stays steady for her son even as she's sprinting through Apex headquarters toward her car. The plane is landing in Chicago, ambulance will be waiting, your brother is going to be okay, just keep him still and keep talking to me. Another flight attendant, older woman named Janet who's been in the galley during most of this horror, finally emerges with first aid kit, her face showing she heard enough to know Craig created disaster. Kneels beside Miles with professional competence Craig never showed. I'm trained in emergency medical response, Janet says gently to Trevor. Let me check your brother, I need to assess his condition, you did good keeping pressure on that wound. She checks Miles's pulse, his breathing, his pupil response, her expression growing more concerned with each assessment, 12-year-old showing signs of concussion and shock, his young body shutting down from trauma physical and psychological, the torture of kneeling combined with the violence of falling creating perfect storm of injury. His pulse is rapid and weak, Janet reports into her radio. Pupils are unequal, breathing is shallow, we need emergency medical on the tarmac ready to transport immediately, this child needs hospital now. The cabin has gone completely silent except for Trevor's quiet sobbing and the hum of engines, passengers processing what they witnessed, what they recorded, what they failed to prevent, guilt settling over everyone who watched children be tortured and did nothing until it was too late, until unconscious body proved that bystander silence enables horror. The woman from row 13 who objected earlier is crying, her face showing she knows her one comment wasn't enough, that stopping after Craig threatened her makes her complicit, that she'll carry this failure forever, another witness who could have done more but didn't. A younger passenger, college student maybe 20, stands up with his phone. I recorded everything, he announces to the cabin. From the moment he made them kneel until he pushed the kid, I have 25 minutes of video evidence, I'm giving this to authorities. Several other passengers echo similar commitments, devices full of documentation, evidence accumulating that will make prosecution easy, that will ensure Craig Whitmore's cruelty is preserved forever, that will show exactly what happens when racism wears uniform and calls itself authority, when torture presents as discipline, when hatred hides behind procedure. Chicago approach. This is Apex 2847 declaring medical emergency. Captain Rodriguez communicates with air traffic control. We have unconscious minor on board, requesting priority landing, emergency medical standing by, we're 50 miles out. Roger 2847 you're cleared for emergency approach, ATC response. Medical units are being dispatched, we're clearing traffic, maintain current heading. The plane descends faster now, the captain pushing limits of passenger comfort to get Miles on the ground, to get him to hospital, to end the nightmare that never should have started, professional pilot responding to emergency with skill while probably wondering how his flight attendant created this crisis. Diana is already on the phone with Anthony, her husband, Miles's father, the Department of Justice civil rights analyst who's about to use every contact he has to ensure Craig Whitmore faces federal prosecution. Anthony, our baby, is unconscious. Diana's voice finally breaks. A flight attendant tortured our sons, made them kneel for 30 minutes, pushed Miles and he hit his head. I'm heading to the airport now. You need to get there too. You need to make sure that man is arrested. I'm already in the car, Anthony says, his voice tight with fury his professional training usually controls. I've contacted FBI field office in Chicago. Agents will board that plane the moment it lands. Diana, I promise you that flight attendant will be in federal custody within the hour. Trevor hears his parents' voices through the phone, hears their fear and rage, feels the protection he refused to request earlier finally arriving, too late to prevent Miles's injury but not too late to ensure consequences, not too late to transform this from tragedy into justice, from powerless children into family with resources to fight back. I'm sorry, Mom, Trevor says through tears. I should have called you sooner. Miles wanted to call but I said we could handle it. I thought we were being tough but I was just being stupid. This is my fault. This is not your fault, baby, Diana says firmly. This is the fault of a racist man who abused his authority. You were trying to protect your brother the best way you knew how. You were brave. You are brave. None of this is on you. The plane drops altitude quickly now. Chicago skyline visible through windows. The descent that usually takes 30 minutes compressed to 15. Emergency override that tells passengers this is serious. This is real. This is child fighting for consciousness while his brother watches helpless. Miles stirs slightly, a moan escaping his lips. his eyes fluttering but not opening, his body trying to wake up but the concussion and shock keeping him trapped in twilight state between conscious and unconscious, between okay and very not okay. Miles, I'm here. Trevor leans close to his brother's face. Mom and Dad are coming, we're landing soon, you're going to be okay. Just hold on, little brother, please hold on. Janet continues monitoring vitals, her expression professional but her eyes showing she knows this is bad, knows that 12-year-olds shouldn't be unconscious from flight attendant violence, knows her airline failed these children catastrophically, knows Craig Whitmore represents rot-in system she's part of. The plane touches down at O'Hare with slight bump that makes Trevor instinctively cradle Miles's head more carefully, protective gesture that's now routine after 40 minutes of trying to keep his unconscious brother safe, 40 minutes that feel like lifetime, 40 minutes of praying Miles will wake up and be okay, that this nightmare will end with recovery not tragedy. Emergency vehicles are visible through the windows, ambulance and fire trucks and police cars with lights flashing, creating perimeter around the aircraft, responding to child in medical crisis with full force of emergency services, the kind of response that arrives when Senior Vice President demands it, when Department of Justice analyst activates contacts, when power finally protects instead of persecutes. The plane taxis quickly to isolated gate away from normal traffic, the captain's voice coming over speakers with gravity that makes even sleeping passengers wake up. Ladies and gentlemen, remain seated. Emergency personnel will be boarding. Do not leave your seats. This aircraft is now a crime scene and everyone will be asked to provide statements. Crime scene, the words hit Craig like physical blow, his face going gray as he realizes assault on minor means federal charges, means his uniform won't protect him, means the boys he thought were powerless had parents whose power he never imagined, whose resources he never considered, whose love transforms into legal weapons he can't defend against. The aircraft door opens and paramedics rush in, 2 EMTs moving with practiced efficiency toward row 14 where Janet waves them over, where Miles lies still and pale, where Trevor refuses to let go of his brother's hand even as medical professionals need space to work. Son, we need you to move back, the lead paramedic says gently. Let us take care of your brother, we're going to help him. I'm not leaving him, Trevor says with determination born from guilt and love. I already let him down once, I'm not leaving him again, I'm going with him to the hospital. That's fine, the paramedic doesn't argue. You can ride in the ambulance, but right now we need space to assess and stabilize. Can you do that for your brother? Can you give us room to help him? Trevor moves back reluctantly, watches as they check Miles's vitals, fit him with neck brace as precaution, carefully transfer him to stretcher, 12-year-old body looking impossibly small strapped to adult-sized equipment, child who should be reviewing presentation materials for tomorrow's meeting instead being rushed to trauma center. FBI agents board next, 3 of them in dark suits with badges visible, their presence transforming the cabin atmosphere from emergency to investigation, from medical crisis to criminal case, from terrible accident to federal prosecution. Craig Whitmore, the lead agent's voice carries authority that eclipses Craig's uniform completely. I'm Special Agent Martinez, FBI. You're under arrest for assault on a minor, child endangerment, and violation of federal aviation safety regulations. You have the right to remain silent. This is a misunderstanding, Craig tries one last time. Those boys assaulted me first, I was maintaining cabin discipline, I was following protocol. We have 25 minutes of video evidence showing you torture 2 children. Agent Martinez cuts him off. We have witness statements from multiple passengers including an attorney. We have the victim unconscious on a stretcher. You have the right to remain silent and I strongly suggest you use it. Craig's hands are cuffed behind his back, the clicking of handcuffs loud in the silent cabin, passengers watching as the man who wielded authority like weapon now has that authority stripped away, transformed from crew member to criminal in the span of emergency landing, from protected to prosecuted because this time his victim had mother who could call cockpit, father who could call FBI, family whose power matched his cruelty. The paramedics wheel Miles toward the door, Trevor walking beside the stretcher refusing to be separated, Janet following with their belongings, the portfolios and contracts for Heritage Foods meeting that will have to be postponed, the business materials that represent dreams now secondary to survival, to getting Miles to hospital, to ensuring he lives and heals and eventually returns to the future this flight attendant tried to steal. Everyone remains seated. Agent Martinez addresses the cabin. You're all witnesses to federal crime. We'll need statements from anyone who recorded video or observed the incident. This will take several hours. Thank you for your cooperation. The black attorney from row 15 stands immediately. I have extensive video and I'm willing to testify. That flight attendant tortured those children for over 30 minutes. I intervened multiple times. I'm an attorney myself and I'm prepared to assist prosecution in any way necessary. Several other passengers volunteer similarly, devices full of evidence, witnesses stepping forward now that authority has arrived to receive their testimony, people who stayed silent during the abuse suddenly eager to document it afterward, the timing revealing uncomfortable truth about when courage becomes convenient. When speaking up feels safe because someone else already acted. Diana and Anthony Richardson arrive at the hospital emergency entrance at University of Chicago Medical Center within 90 minutes of Trevor's call, having chartered private plane from Los Angeles to Chicago, having used every resource and connection to reach their sons, their faces showing the particular devastation of parents who prayed for protection and watched prayers fail, who trusted the world to be kind and learned again that kindness isn't guaranteed. Trevor is in the waiting room, still in his business clothes now stained with his brother's blood, his face showing he hasn't stopped crying since Miles collapsed, 14 years old and carrying guilt that will take years to process, that will require therapy to understand wasn't his fault, that will shape how he sees authority and protection and his own role as older brother forever. Mom, Trevor runs to Diana, collapses into her arms. Mom, I'm so sorry, I should have called sooner. Miles wanted to call but I said we could handle it. I was wrong, I was so wrong. Diana holds her son, her baby, her 14-year-old who tried to be man when he should have been allowed to be child, who chose pride over safety because that's what black boys are taught, to be strong, to handle things, to not need help even when help is exactly what they need. You are not responsible for what that man did, Diana says fiercely, holding Trevor's face so he has to look at her. You tried to protect your brother the best way you knew. You called me when you realized it was too much. You did everything you could. This is not your fault. How is he? Anthony asks the question they're all terrified to hear answered. What are the doctors saying? Is Miles going to be okay? They're doing CT scan now. Trevor manages. He woke up for a few seconds in the ambulance. He asked where we were, then he passed out again. They said he has concussion and shock. They said the next 48 hours are critical. The words hang heavy. Critical means life-threatening. Critical means their baby boy is fighting for his life because a flight attendant decided 2 black teenagers needed to be taught their place, because racism wore uniform and wielded power, because torture masqueraded as discipline until child's skull met armrest and unconsciousness proved cruelty. Miles regains consciousness 48 hours later, his eyes opening in the ICU at University of Chicago Medical Center to find his parents on one side and Trevor on the other, all 3 of them crying with relief that he's awake, that brain swelling was caught in time, that he survived even though recovery will be long and painful and incomplete, even though headaches and PTSD will follow him for years, even though the Heritage Foods meeting was missed and dreams were delayed. My head really hurts, Miles says weakly. What happened? Why am I in the hospital? You hit your head on the plane, baby. Diana strokes his face gently. But you're safe now. The flight attendant who hurt you is in jail. You're going to be okay. The doctors confirm severe concussion and shock, prescribe months of cognitive therapy and trauma counseling, explain that Miles is lucky to be alive, that children's brains are resilient but also vulnerable, that full recovery is possible but not guaranteed, that some effects may be permanent. Medical reality tempering relief with sobering truth about cost of Craig Whitmore's cruelty. 6 months later, Craig Whitmore stands trial in federal court, the prosecution bringing overwhelming evidence, 25 minutes of passenger video showing the torture in detail, witness testimony from the black attorney and multiple passengers, medical records documenting Miles's injuries, expert testimony about use of force and crew authority and where Craig crossed every line from discipline into criminal assault. Craig's defense attorney tries to argue he was maintaining cabin safety, that the boys were disruptive, that Miles's injury was accidental, But video evidence destroys every claim, shows clearly that 12-year-old accidentally stepping on foot doesn't justify 30 minutes of forced kneeling, that Trevor's attempt to call his mother wasn't disruption but appropriate response to abuse, that Craig's shove was deliberate and Miles's fall was consequence of that deliberate violence. The prosecution, led by federal prosecutor who specializes in civil rights cases and who's working closely with Anthony Richardson, presents Craig's employment file showing 7 buried discrimination complaints over his career, pattern of targeting passengers of color, microaggressions that escalated when unchecked, evidence that Apex Airlines knew Craig was problem and did nothing meaningful to stop him until child ended up unconscious. Trevor testifies, 14-year-old on witness stand describing the humiliation of kneeling, the pain in his knees, his brother's tears, his own decision not to call their mother because he thought they could handle it, guilt he carries that prosecutor gently redirects, reminding him and the jury that children aren't responsible for adult violence, that Craig made choices Trevor couldn't control. Miles testifies via video from home, doctors determining courtroom stress would be too much for his still recovering brain, 12-year-old describing what he remembers before everything went dark, the fear, the confusion, the wondering why stepping on someone's foot by accident led to being forced to kneel like prisoner, testimony that makes several jurors cry, that makes even the judge look angry. The jury deliberates for 90 minutes, returns guilty verdict on all counts, assault on a minor, child endangerment, federal aviation violations, Craig Whitmore's face showing he finally understands that consequences arrived, that uniform didn't protect him, that the boys he tortured had family whose power exceeded his authority. Sentencing comes 2 weeks later, the judge expressing rare personal opinion before announcing sentence. Mr. Whitmore, you were entrusted with passenger safety and you weaponized that trust to torture children. You abused your authority in ways that shock the conscience. You caused injuries that will affect your victim for life. And you did it because of racial animus that has no place in our society and certainly no place in positions of authority. The judge sentences Craig to 15 years in federal prison, the maximum allowed under sentencing guidelines, no possibility of parole, career destroyed, reputation ruined, life fundamentally altered because he couldn't see 2 black teenagers as children deserving protection, could only see them as threats requiring punishment. Racism costing him everything while costing Miles his health and Trevor his innocence and the Richardson family their peace. Craig's supervisor, who ignored 7 previous complaints, is terminated by Apex Airlines. Internal investigation revealing pattern of protecting problematic employees over vulnerable passengers. Culture that prioritized avoiding lawsuits over addressing discrimination. System that failed until child nearly died and family with resources demanded accountability. Apex Airlines, under Diana's leadership and pressure from the Department of Justice, where Anthony works, undergoes complete overhaul, mandatory quarterly bias training for all employees, independent passenger rights review board with authority to investigate complaints and recommend terminations, zero tolerance policy for crew discrimination meaning first verified incident results in immediate firing, systemic changes bought with Miles's suffering but protecting future passengers from experiencing what he experienced. The Richardson family channels their trauma into advocacy, testifying before Congress about discrimination in aviation, their story compelling enough to move legislation, working with civil rights organizations to pass stronger federal protections for young travelers of color, transforming their nightmare into tools that might prevent others from living similar nightmares, purpose emerging from pain even as pain remains. Heritage Foods delays the ambassadorship but doesn't rescind it, offering to wait however long Miles needs to recover, demonstrating the kind of grace that makes their eventual partnership meaningful, company that sees past incident to talent underneath, that values the boys' platform and their grandmother's legacy enough to be patient while healing happens. 5 years after Craig Whitmore forced 2 black boys to kneel on an airplane floor and pushed one into a coma, Trevor and Miles Richardson stand in a professional kitchen filming their first Heritage Foods commercial. 19 and 17 years old now, young men who survived torture and emerged with purpose, brothers whose bond was tested by fire and emerged stronger, entrepreneurs whose dreams were delayed but not destroyed. Miles still deals with occasional headaches, the kind that come without warning and remind him that brain injuries leave permanent marks, still has PTSD triggers that therapy helps manage but can't eliminate, loud voices making him flinch, confined spaces causing panic, authority figures requiring extra effort to trust, scars invisible but real, costs of Craig Whitmore's cruelty that persist long after Craig himself sits in federal prison. But today Miles is smiling, cooking his grandmother Loretta's famous mac and cheese recipe, the one that started their channel 5 years ago, the comfort food that represents home and heritage and the love that survived everything designed to break it, his hands moving with confidence camera captures, his voice describing ingredients and techniques with the charisma that made him viral, proof that hate didn't win, didn't break him, didn't steal the future it tried so hard to destroy. Trevor works beside him, the protective older brother who learned that calling for help isn't weakness but wisdom, who's processed his guilt through therapy and understands now that 14-year-olds shouldn't have to handle adult violence alone, who's about to start at Howard University studying policy and advocacy, turning his trauma into tools that might protect other children, purpose emerging from pain. Cut, the director calls. That was perfect. You two have natural chemistry. The audience is going to love this. The commercial will air during prime time, reaching millions. Heritage Foods betting that the Richardson brothers' story of resilience will sell products and inspire viewers, that cooking with culture means more than recipes, means survival and heritage and refusing to let hatred define you, marketing that's also mission, capitalism that accidentally serves justice. Their parents watch from behind the cameras, Diana and Anthony, who chartered planes and called in favors and used every ounce of power they had to save their son, who learned that privilege and resources matter, that their boys survived partly because of luck and partly because mom was senior VP who could ground flights and dad was DOJ analyst who could activate FBI. Advantages not every black family has when their children face racism, inequality revealed even in rescue. We're proud of you, Diana tells her sons during break. Proud you survived, proud you healed, proud you turned this into something meaningful. Grandma Loretta would be so proud. We did it for her, Miles says simply. That flight attendant tried to steal our future, tried to make us small, tried to prove we didn't belong, but we belonged then and we belong now and nobody gets to decide our worth except us. The wrap party that evening includes the airline crew who helped that day, the paramedics who saved Miles, the attorney from row 15 who intervened when others stayed silent, reunion of people connected by crisis. By the day authority abused power and some people fought back while others watched. If you believe children shouldn't need parents with power to be protected from abuse, if you think Miles survived because of luck and resources most families lack, subscribe because we're showing you that individual justice isn't enough when systems stay broken. Like this video if you understand that Craig Whitmore is in prison but the culture that protected him for 7 years still exists in airlines and police departments and schools everywhere, because protecting vulnerable people requires all of us demanding change, not just families with resources fighting back after children pay the price. The Richardson brothers return to their channel, 2 million subscribers now 5 million, their story amplifying their platform, using visibility to advocate for others, every cooking video now carrying subtext about survival and dignity and refusing to accept that black excellence needs to prove itself to racist authority, their grandmother's recipes served with side of activism, food as connection and food as resistance, legacy honored and expanded. Craig Whitmore serves his 15 years, release date set for 2041 when he'll be 62, career destroyed, reputation ruined, 3 decades of freedom sacrificed because he couldn't see children as worthy of dignity, because his racism exceeded his humanity, because he believed uniform granted permission to torture, learning too late that consequences eventually arrive even for people who spent careers avoiding them. Miles stands in front of mirror sometimes, touches the small scar on his temple where his head struck the armrest, reminder of the day he learned the world contains people who will hurt you for existing, who will use authority as weapon, who will call cruelty discipline, but also reminder that he survived, that healing happened even if incomplete, that scars prove survival not defeat, that the boy who was forced to kneel stands tall now, unbroken and thriving, cooking his grandmother's recipes. And proving that hate doesn't get the final word, that love and resilience and purpose matter more, that trying to destroy black excellence only makes it stronger, that Craig Whitmore tried to break them and failed completely, that they're still here, still cooking, still dreaming, still becoming everything racism tried to prevent them from becoming, Victory measured not in perfection but in persistence, not in absence of scars but in presence of strength. Two brothers who survived torture and emerged with purpose, who turned trauma into testimony, who prove every day that hate didn't win and never will.